Welcome, everyone. We are great. It's great to see all of you. We're glad that you're here. And we're just letting everybody in now. We'll wait just a few seconds for everyone to get entered, but we're glad to see you. We want to thank you for attending our July Butler County Provider Meeting. I'm Kathy Borders. I am in Provider Relations here with the board. We also have Amy Winkler with us today, also in Provider Relations. She's going to be helping us out with the chat. We encourage you to use the chat. Feel free to type in questions or comments that you have. We will do our best to get to those questions during our meeting. If for some reason we do not get to your question, we will get back to you after the meeting. We will have time at the end of the meeting for live questions and comments. So we will encourage you to do that. If you would rather not use the chat box, jot down those questions so we can get to those before our meeting ends today. We ask that you stay on mute until that time comes for questions, just so that we can hear all our speakers. I am excited, thrilled now to introduce our new superintendent, who is most likely a familiar face to most of you or many of you. Leanne Emmons is here.
Well, wouldn't it be nice if you could see my face?
Oh.
I'm having a little trouble with my video. So anyway, I guess I'll just talk. I'm sorry, guys. I'll keep working on it.
Do you want us to come back to you? We can.
Can you? I'm sorry. Can you move on to something else? I'm probably gonna get on a different computer.
Okay,
I'll be back.
Okay, perfect. All right. Let's see. Patricia Dawson was going to be here today from Community Connections team, although I'm not sure if I see her either. Patricia, if you're here. Okay, well, I will include in our meeting minutes a link. Patricia was going to join us today. We have our Community Recognition Awards night coming up in September, and we are currently taking nominations. There are different categories. You probably have received some email communication about that. And so she was just going to encourage you to please nominate anyone that you would feel would be a great candidate for any of those different awards. I think we have about a week left for those nominations to come in. So our meeting minutes today will include a link for you to do that. If Patricia joins us, I'll turn the time over to her because she may have a few more details, but we will keep rolling here. I'm going to go ahead and provide some provider updates for us. There's quite a few things that have been happening. You probably are well aware of some of those that rolled out on July 1. It's been a very busy few weeks. So we just wanted to provide you some updates. So I'm going to share my screen here. Oh, I see Leanne. Actually, Leanne, maybe we'll pause that. I'm so sorry. Thanks for being flexible with us. We are rolling and adapting as we go. So Leanne, feel free to.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry about my jumping around there, but for some reason my laptop camera was not working. So hello to all of you. I'm so excited to be back. Most of you I probably know just because in my previous role at Butler County, I was in provider relations. So I'm thrilled to be back and able to interact with all of you. I do want to a couple of things just mention, and I'm sure you've seen various press releases and things that we've done, but I want to make sure people are aware that one of my big priorities in this role is to support providers and for us to be looking at ways that we can continue to develop those important relationships with our providers. So to that end, I've been visiting all the day programs. I haven't yet visited anybody in the residential settings, but I would love an invitation if you have things coming up, events, if you have cookouts planned at your house. I mean, I'm not saying only invite me to parties. I'm not just a party girl. I'm also can also do serious things, but I'd love if you have something you'd like to show, I would love to see it. Or if you just want to chat, I'm happy to come out to you or schedule time with you. I definitely want to connect with those folks that I don't know, and see all the good work that you guys are doing out there. Also, I've asked our PR folks over the next year to really focus on those partnerships and collaborations that we have with providers and those success stories that you guys are really making happen. I mean, we aren't providing a lot of the service that's actually happening out there. We're paying for it and we need to let people know what's happening, right? So if you have things coming up, connect with me, connect with our PR folks. We'd love to share your stories. We'd love to mutually follow each other on socials. We want to really promote all that good work that you're doing. So and then if you also just have a concern or need to meet with me, you can reach me via email, and we'll make sure all my information is in the minutes or phone call. I'm pretty much open to any discussion that is within the realm of what we can do here. So I do want to hear about your concerns and things that are going well also. So thanks for inviting me and thanks for welcoming me back. So many of you have already let me invade your space and I really appreciate that. So thank you guys.
Thank you. We are thrilled to have you back. All right, I am going to now share some provider updates as we were starting. Some big things going on. I just wanted to make sure you were all aware that our second rate increase for 2024 went into effect on July 1st. So you can, or you should be entering that new set of rates when you're entering any billing claims beginning July 1st and after. The updated payment rates can be found on this link here on the DoDD website. We will also include our own Butler County rate chart in our meeting minutes today. There's also a link for overtime, the new overtime rates for independent providers. And as a reminder, anyone providing participant-directed services, you will need to renegotiate that rate for the new rate for you beginning July 1st for any services July 1st and after. Again, feel free to pop any questions you have about any of these things in our chat. All right, our next topic is EVV. We are getting a lot of calls about EVV right now. We are so grateful for your patience, and we definitely know this has been a frustrating time for many of you. So as a precursor to EVV, so EVV is a federally mandated program for certain services, and within DoDD realm, that includes HPC, participant-directed HPC, residential respite, and nursing. So if you are not providing those services, like maybe you're a shared living provider, EVV does not pertain to you. You are lucky duck. But for those of you that are providing the other services, definitely want to pay attention to these things that have been happening if you're not already aware, which I know most of you are. So there was a huge system overhaul within SanData on July 1st. That caused providers to not be able to log in online as they normally would. The app also changed. If you weren't using the new app, even if you were, you had to delete it and reinstall it. So it's been very difficult. Many providers are still not able to get into SanData, and we know that. DoDD has issued guidance reminding providers that billing claims are not being rejected due to any issues with EVV during this time. You want to continue working to get everything set up, but we want you to continue billing as you normally do, as you normally are, and know for sure that you will be paid for those claims. There are some trainings being offered by EVV, by SanData right now. There are online pre-recorded trainings. There's one called an ODM enhancement. It's something with enhancements in the title. I apologize for not having the full title of that training. That one is very helpful. And there's also a chance where you can sign up for sessions to attend to get those trainings. And so you go to sandatalearn.com to register or access those trainings. That really is a great place to start. Calling SanData right now is most likely going to result in long wait times, and that is very unlike them because they typically have very short wait times. So just asking for patience during this time, and if you submit a help desk ticket to send data, they are getting back to providers. It just may take a few days. So that is then my next suggestion is to, if you're still not able to log in after using these trainings provided here, that to submit a help desk ticket. I will pause here for a second to see if there are any questions or comments specifically about the EVV system overhaul. Feel free to unmute.
Kathy, we had a couple in the chat, unless people want to
Okay.
unmute, but Regina, you're correct. So she's talking about being an independent writer in shared living. So with shared living, you do not have to do EVV, you're exempt from that. So you're correct with that. And then Lisa had mentioned part of the problem is the training I took in person via Zoom. The new app did not reflect what they showed, all different. And then she also had mentioned also the online manual does not match the system as well. So I know they're kind of making changes and updates as they go. So that could be part of it. And then yes, you're welcome, Regina.
Yeah, we hear you. It definitely, even here in provider relations, we were not provided any training materials either. And so it seems to me they're kind of building things as they go. So as we have those things, we will share them. I will include a few items that we have today in the meeting minutes. We have a guide for setting up your HID and your two verification methods. I can include those as well as the direct link that is most helpful to use to try and get into the online system. But those things are not necessarily fixing it for everyone, to be perfectly honest. It's just kind of a first step to try. Are there any other questions about that?
I just had the question. I had talked to the Hamilton County side because I'm going there now, but they had said that even with them, that the problem they have is I'm going to probably go to the library, but I don't have a computer. So that in order to add people, you have to go on the computer. I don't know if it's changed. And I kind of tried to play with it blindly yesterday, and it does not seem like the fact that we're all adding our own people. It's like this is a program that you're wanting us to do, but we have to do all the grunt work for you, it seems. So it seems like they've rolled it out with these ideas, but really have zero idea of how they're going to get it done.
Yeah, I hear you. Entering clients is done online, the online portal. I do have directions for that piece that are pretty good. If you are able to get in, the biggest problem we're hearing is that providers aren't able to get into that part. But if you're able to get in, we do have great directions for adding clients. So I can get those to you. That is done online though, not in the app. Once you add them online, then and you make them active online, then they will appear in your app. So I'm sorry. It's been so frustrating.
Guys, I don't know. It's Lisa, by the way. I don't know if there's something after this slide or not, but I do want to mention it. I took part in another meeting on another county, had no idea until this was discussed. If there are any adjustments to claims, they are not allowing them right now. So if you put an adjustment in to fix, an error you made in billing, it's rejecting and it said corrections cannot be made at this time. DODD is not allowing any adjustments to claims until August. So if something wasn't paid and you're trying to rebill it and it's saying adjustments can't be made, that's why. Nobody said anything. That was the first I'd heard of it. So I did want to share that if there's any other providers out there that are trying to rebill something and getting that error message, that's why. Quit wasting your time till August.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. That was not on a slide. I appreciate that. So that is our Medicaid side of things. So a couple things I wanted to mention you reminded me of. So within the billing system, so EMBS, if you were entering claims that way, there are some alerts there. I would encourage you, been noticing that DODD is actively using those alerts section of that application right now. They have been for the last little while. So that is going to be a great resource for you to watch closely, because they are putting notices there. There's a notice right now about EVV, and there is a notice about the pause in billing claim adjustments being allowed. And that
Hey,
is
Mom.
because
I might go around, clean up a little bit, but just organize a little bit. Oh, that was me.
Oh, there is also Memo Monday is a great, if you're not subscribed to that, I strongly encourage you to do that. And that is, you're able to do that on the DODD website. When you log into dodd.ohio.gov, you scroll all the way to the bottom. There is a link there. I believe it's called Family. I'll include it in our minutes. I don't have the exact name of that right now. We've shared it previously. You can then subscribe to different publications, and one of those is Memo Monday, and they do release information about those kind of things there. But thank you, Lisa, for that reminder about that. That is frustrating. It's just during this time, Medicaid is switching their financial system, and that's why there's been this pause during that time for those adjustments. All right. This just is kind of a carryover from the previous slide about ways to get more help from SANDATA. You'll be able to have this link and information in the meeting minutes, but they are providing help sessions, and that's ongoing, not just during this transition time, that's all the time if you have things that pop up. And then also there is SANDATA's phone number. Just be warned that they are experiencing still pretty high length call waits. All right, any other questions right now related to the EVV transition? I guess I'm gonna skip through this. I kind of already covered this, that that EVV went into effect for residential respite and nursing on July 1. All right, so another important change that happened on July 1 related to EVV is GPS tracking. So on July 1, the requirement for GPS location with EVV was discontinued. So individuals receiving services must choose whether or not to allow GPS to be used in their home and community. And they must give signed permission for that use. Providers are responsible for getting that written permission and maintaining that consent record. Medicaid has published a consent form that you can use. There is not a set required form. There's just certain elements that are required. So it will be a link to get onto the Medicaid website to get that form. And wanted to point out that Medicaid will continue to meet that federal mandate for location, which is, part of the EVV federally mandated program rule, by asking providers to indicate where their visit is occurring when they log in and when they log out. And so you'll be indicating whether you're in the home or community when you're doing that. And that's how the location will be captured from here on out. Wanted to let you know that when you have the SANDATA app on your phone, it defaults to having GPS location on. So if you do not have written signed permission from the individuals you're working with to have that GPS location tracking happening, you would need to go into your phone settings and toggle that off, because it is tracking otherwise automatically. Any questions related to that before we move on?
I have a
I have a-
question. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
My question was this. I normally will have my client, because they have a smaller apartment, when their mom goes to work, they'll come to my house for a little bit, like I'll make them breakfast and then we'll go out and do something and then come back for lunch before they go home. So how does all that work? Because it's never like a full set. We're out in the community, because I have him for 8.5 hours, 9, and some days 13 hours when his mom's at choir. And so it's like I'm doing stuff here, so not constantly out
Mhm.
like going shopping or something, or sometimes we'll just watch movies like today where it was supposed to rain. I kind of just figured, hey, it'd be a nice day to relax. He's already stressed about the changes that are coming with school. So I'm trying to figure out how that's going to work. Or
Mhm.
are they going to try to say, because I go down to his house and pick him up and then we come back here for a bit. So that was something that I was trying to figure out myself is I have him here just so I can make food and he likes it because it gives him a little more room. And he
Yeah.
says that it has better Wi-Fi, which is one reason why he's always like, I want to be there. I can get on my tablet. So that's just one of my concerns. Like, are they going to try to say, because it's like I'll log in when I get there, but then we tend to come back and
Mhm.
go on with their day.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a good point. And that is something that's changed. Providers are not being asked to clock in and out to be able to enter those different locations. You are only going to be required to enter the location within SANdata, the EBV app, when you log in and log out. So any changes you should be documenting on your documentation sheets. So there you're indicating, community outings, things like that. So that's how you would capture that information, would be there.
And I'm glad that he asked that question because that's kind of what I was going to comment on. When I took, because everybody knows Lisa Spicer, I took 3 different trainings because everything new started popping up and I wanted them to show me what I was seeing. And none of the trainings did it come up that they were going to be saying home or community. None of them covered it. None of them. And
Mhm.
I had, my staff saying it's asking home or community. What I was told when I was on one of those trainings was that Blessed Home Care is an HPC provider. We are not a community provider. They said when they were talking community providers that it was day habs and places like that. So that kind of goes totally different from what we just said. So in my mind and how I'm handling it and how I'm documenting it is just like Kathy said. We're putting that we're going in the outings and doing different things. However, when we start our service, we are actually at their home. And when we end our service, we are actually at their home. So in my mind, that's what I think they're talking about. And we are a home provider. But I don't know.
Mhm. That's interesting because day programs do not use EVV. Only HPC providers, nursing, residential respite are using it. So this guidance here on the screen was received directly from DoDD. So I would continue to look at it this way. There's a lot of confusion. It's been really tricky because SANdata is providing that EVV system for other providers besides DoDD. So I feel like sometimes they get, there's just different information giving out.
Yep.
Right.
And that was the whole purpose of EVV when they started it, was for GPS location to prove that people were where they said they were. And now they're not doing the location. So it kind of like, why are we even doing it? But you got to roll with it.
Recording in progress.
Yeah, I was wondering
Yeah,
about that because two of my people, I don't know if they'll have a way, like I'll have to find a way to get it printed out then. Because again, I don't have a computer and printer, I don't mess with that much. So it's like, well, now I've got to figure out something because if I'm doing GPS, is it if you're only tracking the beginning or is it tracking you all day long when you say you're out with someone I feel like it's a very confusing thing that I feel like that stuff will be pushed back, but I'm still trying to figure it out so I know so it can be done right and so everything can be done the proper way. But that also seems like they don't have a full idea yet that they've been trying to figure out an idea of.
Hmm.
And when
It
you
will, go ahead, sorry, Lisa.
what you
Go ahead.
said, Kathy, when you said they can just turn their GPS on or off. So you're saying they need to turn off their GPS if we're not doing the the GPS location. They need to turn the GPS off on their phone before they go into the app if, they have it on for their personal reasons. Is that what you're saying? And then after they clock in, then they can turn it off?
No, we would want to keep, so the GPS location that we would want to toggle off is within the Sandata Mobile Connect app. So it would not be the location for your whole phone. It
Okay,
would be, you have to go into to that app. So when you go into your settings, it has a list. Like I have I have an iPhone. I'm sure it's similar on a Sandroid or Android, but on mine, you scroll all the way down, it has all your apps listed. And so
Okay.
then you click the name of Sandata Mobile Connect, and then it pulls up a menu just about Sandata Mobile Connect. And within that, there's different things, and one of
Right.
them has location, and it has a little toggle on the iPhones. And so
Well,
you turn that, and it will stay off. You don't want
Right.
to turn it back on. If you turn it back on, it will start tracking you again. And if you do not have that signed permission, you cannot have that on.
well, see, one of the problems is if you have 78 clients and 20 of them want the location used and the other 58 do not, then your staff is going to have to upload and download and take that app out and put it in every time they go to clock in, because that app is going to either show location or not show location. They cannot, if they see more than one client, which mine usually see 5 or 6, you know what I mean? You can't just turn it off and on. So I think I'm going to reach out to everybody and probably make it a policy that we do not use the location.
Yeah. It will let you turn it on and off. It will. You just have to go into the settings every time and turn it back on. If you had a client that then wanted it, like another visit, a separate visit, you can toggle it back on and off rather than deleting it and reinstalling the app every time.
And then if you have a group visit and some of them want it on and some of them don't, then you're stuck. They
Mhm.
did not think this out very well. They did not.
Well, we appreciate your patience and doing your very best to comply with the standard, the rules that have been put out. I know it's not easy. We appreciate you, all of you, for all that you do. We know it's not an easy job, for sure. All right, so another change I wanted to share with you today is about the live-in caregiver exemption. So this hopefully is a very positive change for all of you that this impacts. So if you live with the person that you provide services for, and you're using EVV, HPC, PDHPC, or nursing, you can request an exemption to having to use EVV. You have to complete a form. The link is here. We will include it in our meeting minutes. We also have made a small little guide for some of the sections that are a little confusing. So you fill out the form and you fax it to the number that is on the form. It's going to Medicaid. Medicaid will then review it and approve it. You need to continue using EVV until you get an approval email back from them. And this, I believe, is going to have to be resubmitted periodically. They have not released the details of that quite yet, but it sounds that way. Any questions about that?
We had one, but I think we answered it. It was on after it's submitted. Are we supposed to follow up with a specific group for status? And that's ODM will send an email in return once they've received it and it's been approved. And then also
Yeah,
we'll
if
have
you
a copy of the consent form in the meeting minutes as well.
For sure. If you have submitted your form and not received any communication yet, that doesn't mean that they didn't receive it. I've not heard of anyone yet that has received correspondence back. I think this is a very busy time right now for Medicaid. So just be patient. Please continue using EVV though. If you're able to get in and get everything set up, please use that until you get that approval. Okay. All right. If any other questions you have, please put them in the chat, or at the end of our meeting, if we have time, we will open up time for that. Although I have one more kind of big EBV announcement that's happening. But this announcement right now does not affect DoDD services. I kind of want to leave with that. I have it in bold. I just want to make it super, super clear. Just want you to be aware, though, that Medicaid has introduced phase 1 of their claim at education process, which began with home health services billed through FFS, which obviously is not DoDD. So this is just kind of a forewarning of what could be happening, because they have said that additional services will be announced in future phases, but a 90-day notice will be given prior to initiating the process of claims denial. So what this means is that for certain services that are under Medicaid, they will now be requiring EVV clocking in and out to match claims. And if they do not match, that could result in a denial of your billing claim. This does not include DoDD right now, but we encourage you to begin preparing for that, because it looks like it could be coming at some point in the future. And the way that you prepare for that is getting into compliance now. I know right now is kind of a bad timing with the system being very difficult to navigate, but once you're able to get in and everything gets worked out, if you haven't been using EVV, please start using it and visiting the Medicaid website on EVV to review and make sure you're complying with all requirements related to EVV. That way, when it does happen and we give you that 90-day notice, it won't be such a stress to get set up. Any questions there?
Yeah. My issue is that I've wasted so much time and energy in trying to get EVV set up and working, and it's still not. So I have a office meeting today, later with Sandata, but I stopped using it with the thought that Sandata needs to get all, because every time I log on, there's something different. It doesn't look like it did yesterday. So it's just a total waste of my time and effort and frustration. So I've just stopped using it and thought that maybe I just wait a week and a lot of the issues might be worked out that Sandata is still trying to work out. So I still want to be in compliance. I'm still trying, but when my frustration level is so high because nothing is working, I think we should be allowed to take a break from it. At least until
and we agree.
Working.
We totally agree. We totally agree. And that's why DoDD put out the guidance that, a reminder that claims are not being denied, because they totally get that it's not working for many of you right now. For sure, that is okay.
Okay.
Just don't walk away from it for a year,
Like I said, I have
Talking
an
about it.
office meeting scheduled this
Yeah.
afternoon with them, so I'm still trying.
Well, thank you. Thank you for trying and all that time. It's very frustrating for sure. Okay. All right, a couple more updates. Independent providers can now opt out of displaying their address and email in the DoD provider search. So if you weren't aware, it defaults to showing provider address and email. So you could be potentially contacted by third-party companies. Some providers we've heard receive mailings from things, that kind of thing. And it's because your address and email are considered public record as a provider. So there is now an option where you can go in and shut that off. It defaults to allowing it. So if you do not want your address and email to be displayed, you have to go and opt out of that. New providers are going to be able to do that right when they get certified. And current providers, you will be logging into PSM onto your provider demographics page. This is your dashboard. Right here on your home page, there is a new section. This is a little blurry. I apologize. When I stretched it, it got a little blurry. But there is a section here where you will be choosing, if you do not want your information displayed, you would put yes. You want to opt out, yes. So that's a great new feature. DoD is listening to providers and adding things like this. It's great to see. We talked about this in our last meeting in May. Just wanted to remind those employment providers out there that the employment outcome-based payments did go into effect on July 1. There is a lot of information about them now published in each of their corresponding rules. This is for career planning and individual employment supports. So there is now some additional payments that are available to encourage and reward providers who are supporting people with getting jobs that they want and need, and to retain those jobs. So if this applies to you, I encourage you to visit those rules or reach out to Amy and I for with your questions, because there is a procedure to follow for this. We also wanted to let you know that we just recently added and updated our Butler County staff directory to our provider portal. So all providers using our provider portal can have access to our staff directory, and we will keep that updated as changes occur. So you're going to get into our portal, you log in at providers.butlerdd.org, and there is a documents section. I'll show you a picture here. So here's your dashboard when you log into our portal. Here is a menu here on the left in black. There's a document section. When you click that, then this whole list of forms, we have a lot of great forms in here besides the directory. If you're looking for documentation, templates and things, but here is the staff directory. When I pulled it, a picture of it, it was on page 2. So you might, it looks like it's alphabetical. So you'll need to toggle to find that. And then over here, you can download it and have that to use. So I wanted to let you know about that.
Kathy,
Reminder
can I
is-
say something about that real quick?
Yeah, of course.
I just wanted to mention this was a request I heard multiple times as I went out to visit people, just knowing who to contact when, and especially when there's a change in SSA. So one of the features of that directory is it's interactive. So if you click on, I forget what the title is, but basically it's a TO, a table of organization. You can find out who someone's supervisor is. So if you have an SSA that's out on leave, you don't have to necessarily go through all those hoops of figuring out who to call to reach someone to get some help. So we included that feature also for our EI department, but I think most people on this call would be most interested in the SSA supervisors and managers. So their phone numbers, their emails, just to try to expedite things for you guys. You don't have to call and go through our whole directory to get who you need.
Thank you. Yeah, that's awesome. Very exciting. So there are DSP support team office hours every single month, second Wednesday of each month. No need to register. You can just hop on 9 to 10. They typically cover a topic and then have open time for providers and DSPs to just talk and bring up questions and concerns that they have. So it's a great way to network and connect with other providers and DSPs across the state. A couple of trainings coming up that are really great ones. DoDD, of course, has their monthly Office to Compliance provider trainings. Strongly encourage you to take advantage of these. You can count these trainings towards your annual training by filling out the training documentation template, which is linked here. It's on the DoDD website. You can just fill in the title of the training and the links, and that you can submit that as part of your annual training. So a couple of great topics coming up. So I encourage you to mark your calendar and then register on the compliance page of the DoDD website. OSU is offering a free training for DSPs coming up just here very soon. It looks like next week, July 22nd, on supported decision-making in everyday life. This also can be counted for credit towards the competency-based longevity add-on that DSPs and independent providers can qualify for. And so invite you, if this interests you, to register there for that. One last training is the Charting the Life Course training coming up on August 1st. This will provide you with information and tools all about charting the life course. And that's a framework to help individuals and families develop and discover a life they want to live. So this training is open to providers, family members, and individuals. It's an interactive training. So encourage you, if this interests you, to register for that. There's more information. There's a flyer available here at this link, and it does give you 3 hours of CEU credits by attending. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. We have, next up is Robin Thomas is here with us today. She is from the SWOCOG, and she has prepared, we're excited to have a little training today on maintaining compliance. So I will turn the time over to her for that.
Thank you, Kathy. I am going to share my screen if I can get my information up here in just a second. There we go. Bear with me 1 minute. There we go. Okay. So I will try to get through this fairly quickly because I know we're running a little short on time, but and the EVV stuff is hot topic this time around, but I wanted to go through a few things regarding compliance and the best ways that you as either an independent provider or an agency can maintain compliance. So these are the things that I'm going to go over. Top citations for the 6 counties in SWOCOG here in southwestern Ohio. Top citations for 2023. Overview of the compliance requirements, activities to assist you in maintaining compliance, and then some resources that might be helpful for you. So starting out, top citations for SWOCOG counties for 2023. And I took this information off of the posted compliance reviews off of the provider search on the DoD website. So that's where I gathered this information. So we're going to start with independent providers. And I'm going to run through these pretty quickly. I did send this PowerPoint to Kathy, so she has it and can share it with you so that you can look through this when you have some time to see what top citations providers are getting. So for independent providers, a tie for first place was not having a monthly UI log review and not keeping a personal funds ledger. So those are the most common things that are occurring. Also not keeping number of units missing from service documentation. One of the real big ones we find are no license plate number on transportation documentation. That's a newer requirement, but a lot of people are missing that. We see a lot of expired first aid and CPR certifications. Type of service is missing. That's whether it's HPC, PDHPC, transportation. That's not on the documentation sheet, and that is a requirement. And then 8 hours of annual training not completed. A lot of times, and this is generally with newer independent providers, they do not realize that training is required every year. So a lot of people are missing getting their annual training. And then there are specific elements that are required on service documentation, and generally not everything is missing from this list, but a couple of things might be missing. They may not have group size or place of service, or they might have those things and might not have the individual's Medicaid number and the provider's name and the provider's contract number. So generally it's some combination of these things, not necessarily everything. For agency providers, top citation, medication orders, treatments, and health-related activities are not being followed. And that could be a variety of things. Someone not getting to their medical appointments like they are supposed to. Medications not being given. like they should be. It could be a variety of anything regarding medications, health-related activities, doctor appointments. It could include medication refusals, and then nothing happening when somebody is refusing medications and they, there's no follow-up to that. Anything along those lines. Training topics that are required within 30 days of hire are not being completed. Now, things changed with the way training is being done for new employees, where there are things that have to be done, as soon as that person is hired. But then there's a couple things that need to be done, that can wait just a little bit, but have to be done within 30 days of hire, and those things are not happening. Agencies are not having the required things in their unusual incident policy. Either they didn't have it or it didn't contain everything that was required to be in it. Staff didn't have their required initial training at all or prior to providing direct services. Service plan was not implemented as written, and that was tied with the agency didn't have an internal compliance program, which is required for background checks, service documentation and billing. I'm trying to remember these off the top of my head. Training, thank you. So when some of, it's required that an agency have that internal compliance to make sure those things are happening the way they're supposed to. And when they're not, agencies are getting citations because they don't have that internal compliance to have those checks and balances to make sure those things are happening the way that they should be. And there's a second slide because there were, several things that were hitting, that had at least, there were several agencies that had many of these things that they were getting cited on. The attestations did not include those in lieu of statements, or they weren't signed prior to employment. That statement that was added a few years back that employees were not, to given something in lieu of being instead of arrested or convicted, or they did some kind of other program in lieu of being convicted of a disqualifying offense. That statement is missing on a lot of those pre-employment attestations that employees are supposed to sign. Lots of BCIs not being done prior to hire or prior to employing someone in a direct service position. No written training plan, which again is a newer requirement, but it's been in effect for a couple of years now, and agencies don't have those written training plans in place for each of their employees, what each employee is required to have. Database checks were done late or not completed at all, and then employees not being enrolled in RATBAC, or they were enrolled later than what the rule says they should be. So then what is considered compliance? It's where you follow the rules, basically. There's certain acceptable standards and you conform to those standards. You do the things that you are required to do based on what the rules say you need to do. So regular compliance reviews are done for every provider during each period of certification if they billed within the past 24 months. So this has been changed just slightly in the most recent revision to the rule. Providers get a 90-day notification, and the tool that we use demonstrates that a provider meets the minimum standards of compliance. You're following the basic rules that you need to make sure that you're on track to do what every provider is required to do. You're not doing anything above and beyond. You're following those basic standards. Special reviews can be done at any time if there's a concern, a complaint, or something with an MUI that, you know, maybe an investigative agent says, I think this maybe needs to be looked at a little further beyond the scope of what is going on with the MUI. Those special reviews can be done with no notice to the provider. A compliance reviewer can show up on your doorstep and say, hey, I'm here to look at your personnel records, or I'm here to look at documentation for these particular people. They do not have to give you notice. So they don't, compliance reviews don't necessarily cover every single area of all of the rules that you're required to follow, but they do the most common things that, you know, you are required to do. We do have a question in our review tool that would cover anything else in the rule that's not necessarily in the tool. You are expected as a provider to know the administrative rules that apply to you. And compliance reviews are public record. We do not use individuals' names. We have a list. We refer to them by identification numbers. And then any compliance review that's done is put in the provider search on the DoDD website. So compliance is not only required by DoDD, but it also makes sure that individuals with developmental disabilities are receiving the best supports that they can, that the staff that you have, that you as an independent provider, that staff are trained, they're qualified, there's not any disqualifying offenses, you know, somebody doesn't have something on their record that would keep them from being able to work in the field. It's a way to assure that people are getting the best support possible. Again, it's the minimum standard of compliance, but it at least gives us a starting point that someone has been vetted, that they have been checked out, that that you at least have a good starting point. Someone has, you know, their basic training, they have the things that they need so that you can work with them and help them get the tools that they need to be a good support to someone. So this is the list of rules that apply to providers. Now, County Board and COG reviewers, we do not do compliance reviews for licensed facilities or intermittent care facilities. We do not do those reviews. So I do not have the list of rules here for those types of reviews or any of those types of services because I am not extremely familiar with them. These would be for home and community-based waiver services. This is the list of rules that are the basic things that any provider should be familiar with. Background investigations, if you're doing, you know, employment type things, the employment first rule, you can see the list here. I'm not going to go through all of this, but for 5123-9, that has all of the service rules, HPC, adult day service, vocab, transportation, non-medical, those are all located in Chapter 9. These are all on the DoDD website. So they are there, they are available for you if you go to forms and rules. I actually have this a little bit later in the slideshow. They are there for you to look at, get information about, for you to know and to refer to. I look at rules all the time. If I'm not certain about what a requirement is, I go to the rule and I look at it and I figure it out by looking at what the rule says. That's what they're there for, so that you know what you're supposed to do based on what the rule says. So what are some things that you can do to make sure you're maintaining compliance, that you're doing the things that you're supposed to do? You have the test in front of you. When you have a compliance review coming up, or just in general, when you want to make sure that you're doing the things that are somewhat required. Again, everything is not on the compliance tool, but use the compliance review tools. They're available on the DoDD website in the compliance section. They are there. It gives you the questions that we ask, the rules down there at the bottom. All those numbers are the rules. They refer to the rules that that question has come from, and then some guidance and some additional information about what may be helpful for you. If you are not sure what some of that means, it'll give you a little bit of additional information that might be helpful. Especially like there was some exceptions made during COVID for some things. So you may see like for people in a direct service position where they enrolled in RATBAC, you could see like the bottom bullet on the additional information is about DSPs hired between, 2.5 months. During 2020, they were not required to be in RATBAC unless they maintained employment after 6/1/20. So, some different information that might be helpful if you are looking at information about your employees. It gives you some of the information from the rule. Again, don't solely rely on that additional information. Make sure you're reading the rule and know the information that the rule says. But this kind of helps you if you're going through and wanting to use this to make sure that you have everything that you need to have to meet what the compliance tool says. Make sure you use the administrative rules. They lay out those requirements. They let you know if there are policies required. The rule's going to tell you if a policy is required for you as a provider, particularly mainly agencies, and what should be included in the policy. Timelines and specific requirements, those are all indicated. Make sure you're looking at the rules thoroughly, because some rules have requirements for county boards and for providers, particularly the MUI rule, MUI and UI. I have seen many, many policies for MUI and UI that have all of the information about MUI investigations, which is what the county board does, in a provider's policy about MUI. That's really not appropriate to be in your policy. Make sure you're reading through that policy and pulling out the pieces that apply to you as a provider and not including the stuff that does not apply. Sometimes it's difficult to do, but make sure you're reading through it, pulling it apart, and figuring out what parts do apply to you. Develop that process for internal compliance. And here's the list that I couldn't remember off the top of my head. You have to have an internal compliance program, agency providers, for provider certification to make sure you are maintaining it so you don't go for a period of time without certification and that end up affecting services for people. Your background investigations, your database checks, your BCI checks, and enrolling people in RATBAC. For your service delivery documentation and billing, how all of those pieces work together and making sure those things are occurring the way they should be. And then management of individuals' funds, so that you're assuring people have access to their money, how it's handled, keeping a handle on making sure there's not misappropriation, all of those pieces, and what are the checks and balances for each of those things to assure things are happening like they should be according to the rule. And if you have citations in those areas, you will also generally get a citation regarding internal compliance. Because if you aren't guaranteeing that those things are happening the way that they should be, you have an issue with your internal compliance program. If you're not sure about documentation, training, personnel processes, contact provider support at your county board of DD. You can contact the Office of Compliance at DODD with questions. There are people out there that can answer questions for you. I answer questions for people on occasion. Now being with the COG, I mean, I was with Butler County for several years doing provider relations. I mean, I've answered those questions for people, you know, if they're not sure what to do. There are people out there to help you, to answer those questions, to do those things. You know, they're not going to tell you exactly what to do, but they're going to guide you towards, here's what you need to look at. Here's what you need to decide within your agency that you need to do. Or here, independent provider, here's some training that you know, here's where you can find the training that you need to take. Those types of things. So DODD has several resources available to providers. I have on here where you can find the rules. You go to forms and rules in effect, and then the rules are all listed out by different chapters. Chapter 2 is provider standards. There they are. Chapter 6 is all about medication administration. Chapter 9 is the service rules. They're all there. You click on the rule, and then you have to download the rule, and then there's appendices that go with the rules, particularly for provider certification and training requirements. It gives you separate lists of what training requirements are for different situations. It's all there. Then you have the compliance section on the DODD website, a wealth of information there. You have provider resources, the DODD provider training series. Kathy was talking about the upcoming trainings. There are recordings of every provider training they have done and things that handouts that go along with them. All kinds of information there. The compliance review tools are available there as well, and they keep those up to date. Every time they update the compliance review tools, they put the new ones in that section, and they will have the date. They are generally updated twice a year, and they will give information about what the updates are. If there are significant updates, they generally will do a training on them. And then if you click more provider resources, all kinds of good information, documentation, templates, information about background checks. You see technology first, provider training. I mean, all kinds of stuff. That's only the first page. I have more, all kinds of stuff, restrictive and prohibited measures, trauma-informed care, training plan templates. If you need a form to do your training plan for your staff, which is required, they have the template right there. All kinds of information. And then we have how to contact the Office of Compliance at DODD. Again, very, very helpful if you have specific questions. If you're not sure, if you have something come back for a prospective staff on a background check and you don't know if they're employable or not, I mean, you can ask somebody at the county board or you can ask me, but sometimes we don't know the answers to those questions. You can email or call compliance and they're going to help you figure that out, or they're going to ask the legal department at DODD. If it's one of those really ticky situations and you're not sure and we're not sure, they can help you figure that out. So that their information is in there, and then I have my information in there. If it's something I can answer for you, I will try, but otherwise I'll tell you to call DODD. So I know I went through that very, very quickly, but you will have the PowerPoint that you can refer to if you have questions, but that's some information that hopefully is helpful for you to help maintain compliance so that when it is time for you to have a compliance review, you can have everything all pulled together and ready because you know where to find the information about what it is that you need to do as a provider to have things in place and to do things the correct way and have everything together so that you have a good foundation for services so that you are, instead of putting out fires all the time, you have that very good foundation and have things together so that you then have the time to do the services that you need to do for the people that you're supporting. So, man, I managed to get that done pretty quickly. So, questions from anyone?
Great job, Robin. I do want to comment and say that I have been someone that has called Robin many times. She is a wealth of information, but she's a very busy lady. But I have always found that anything that Robin has told me has been 100% accurate in any survey I've went through. So thank you, Robin, for the great job you do.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Robin. We are very appreciative of you for your help, for your knowledge, and for this helpful training today. We will be sending it out with our email today. We'll also include Robin's contact information that she shared first in her PowerPoint, so we will share that out to all of you. So feel free to reach out to her or Amy and I as well here at Butler County with questions you have. We're always happy to help answer or find answers for you. Just wanted to kind of close out our meeting today with a couple of things. I did not mention, with the EVV, there are so many changes. We, again, just want to reiterate, we are so grateful for your patience and understanding during this process. We have created a one-page summary of all the EVV changes because there were so many. And links to the different forms and things that are now out there, as well as the Medicaid main page for EVV information is all on this one page. So we will be including that today. We hope you will find that helpful as you navigate all these changes that have occurred. We also wanted to let you know that our office is now going to be closed on July 23rd, so next Tuesday, due to the death of an employee, so that employees can attend those services on that day. Lastly, our next provider meeting, we hope you will join us again, is on September 18th at 10 a.m. via Zoom as normal. So we hope you will join us. We are past our time, so Amy and I will stay on for a few minutes to answer any individual questions. Feel free to email us directly though if you have other questions that you didn't make it into the chat, and we will be happy to help you with that. Hope you have a great rest of your day.